This is the consideration of approval of amended and restated Festival Marketplace ground lease with Lap 7 Development, LLC, for development of a two-story building to operate a microbrewery and tap room along with ancillary food services. Hi there.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
I'm Lena Dozier, Downtown Transformation Manager. I actually have the developer, Brandon Lodge, that I'll introduce you to for some brief comments at the end of this. I also have Wade with Prairie Artisan Ales here that will also be able to speak to the end user of the first floor. So just as a reminder, in January of 23, we had received 2 submittals to an RFQ that we had put out in, is that right? 23, okay, that we had put out at the end of 2022. I thought I had a typo. We had a selection committee that looked through the applications, the responses. That was made up of the Central Edmond Urban District Board, Downtown Edmond Business Association, the Edmond Economic Development Authority, the City of Edmond Parks and Recreation, and the City Manager's Office. Both of those submittals were interviewed. Lap 7 Development was selected, and we began lease negotiations shortly thereafter. In May of 23, City Council approved the Festival Marketplace ground lease for development of a microbrewery, which is Prairie Artisan Ales, and a tap room with Lap 7 Development. In the original lease, the construction was slated to begin in January of 2024. As that did not happen, the city did send a default letter to Lap 7 Development LLC, and since that time, we've been working together to amend the lease. Oh, just as an FYI, and Brandon may pull this up later, this is the layout of the site once the construction is completed, just so you can see where the building will take place. So the lease terms, now with the amendment, we are going to start construction no earlier than November 11th, 2024. This allows us to avoid this year's farmers market. It will be completed no later than the end of July of 25. The building will be now 2 stories with an estimated 6,000 square feet. The first floor obviously is still going to be the tap room and the brewery, and the second floor is to be determined still. The rent will commence as soon as this lease is approved, as opposed to when construction is complete. It is $12,750 annually for 5 years, and then will increase 10% each subsequent 5-year period. Plans will be submitted to the city for review no later than September 1st of this year. That will help me make sure that we're staying on track for construction to begin in November of 24. And then no additional extensions will be granted. Construction activity will not negatively impact the farmers market this year. No parking is going to be deleted this year or any other year. I wanted to show, this was the first submittal of what Prairie was going to look like. I wanted to show how much extra space the second story will take. So it's going to just be an increased 10 feet. So it is consistent with our downtown master plan for a healthy, vibrant, walkable urban neighborhood full of people living, working, eating, playing, shopping, and learning. The Festival Marketplace continues to be that hub for downtown Edmond. And it's actually, this development is going to activate the area, especially during the nights and the weekends and the months that the farmers market is not taking place. So right now I have any questions I did want to address. We've gotten a lot of comments via email. We also met with the farmers market vendors last week on Friday, and I met with some of them out in the field with the developer on Saturday. So I just wanted to clarify one more time that this is not going to take away any parking. Even during construction, it's not going to take away any parking. It will decrease the use of the alley in between the shaded structure and the building, but that will most likely be open before the farmers market begins, as construction will be interior at that point. Just also, we are building a parking garage. It's got 216 spaces that will hopefully be empty on the weekends because no city employees should be working. So then that's not, incredibly far away from the farmers market, so that will be available. We also, as Andy mentioned earlier, we're going to have 50 parking spaces in the Millhouse parking lot, or Millhouse parking garage, that will also be available. I know that Councilman Robbins checked with the police department regarding safety in this area. It has been a concern of some people. There were no notable incidents in the area, even though there is a Frenzy Brewery just right across the street. So we don't anticipate any additional safety issues. One of the comments was about the length of the lease. The long-term lease is 25 years. You know, when you're doing large-scale development, it's really difficult to get financing in place if you have short-term leases. Ground leases are typically 25 years, so it's not an unusual length of time for a lease in one of these instances. I know the art is very important to the area. I'm going to get her name wrong. Kentucky Daisy, go me, will not be affected by this. It won't be in the construction zone, and it's certainly not going to be anywhere near the building, within reason. 10 feet, I think, is in between it. So I will introduce Brandon Lodge if he wants to come up and say hello.
Lena, real quick,
Oh, yeah.
the storage building?
Yes, so we already have a storage building purchased. Since construction was delayed a little bit, it went out to Mitch Park. I am working with the Parks Department now to find alternate solutions. I know that there's a desire to have something a little bit larger than what was originally purchased. Thankfully, we have a little bit of time. You know, we have until November to figure that out.
But there will be something there.
There will be something
Okay,
there.
perfect.
No
Thank you.
problem. Sorry, any more questions for me before I step away?
The rent, the $12,750 per year, that was the same as the
The first one.
contract that was in
Yes, sir.
default. That hasn't been adjusted.
It has not. We have a land lease. The land under lease is still 4,000 square feet, give or take. We're not leasing the building. He's building the building, so the land lease is the same.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
I'd seen some emails about lighting. Do you want to talk about lighting? Or
Sure,
about
I haven't-
Safety by the railroad tracks?
Yeah, railroad tracks are inherently
Dangerous.
dangerous. So I haven't looked into lighting. I have no problem doing that with our Public Works Department and our Engineering Department. I'm hopeful. I haven't talked to Brandon about it, but I think there's probably got to be exterior lighting on the building that will help with lighting in the area. If not, I'm sure we can figure something out.
Just a reminder on the train situation. This is, before I got here, Andy, there was an evaluation by Kimberly Horn about, let's say, train overpass. Train's not going,
Pedestrian?
there you go, there you go. That was designed, we don't currently have funding for it, but the idea was to mitigate as much as possible pedestrian traffic at grade level. Is that correct? Correct. Okay.
And I don't know if maybe you or Mr. Lodge can expand on, you said you don't believe there would be any ill effect in the alleys. Do we know that, or are we just guessing?
So the alley that I was speaking of is the alley between the farmer's market and where the building will be. That will be closed during construction. I will let him speak to that, but the alleys that go north-south won't be affected at all.
Okay.
I will say I've had discussions with staff recently about putting some speed
Pumps.
bumps, are those the words? Speed bumps in the alleys.
To slow folks down, just.
Yeah, to keep traffic from flying through there, and I know that we're looking into that right now. So if that was the alley you were referencing, we're looking into that as well.
Okay.
Okay, you wanna- I don't know if you want me to go back.
And I have my questions will come in after Mr. Lodge speaks.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you for taking the time to let me come up here and talk about this. Brandon Lodge, Lap 7 Development. Lena went through the history of the project, so I won't take a whole lot of time doing that. The first version, the single-story version, single-tenant version of this project got derailed like a lot of projects have lately by interest rates and rising construction costs. With only 4,000 square feet of footprint, there's not a lot of area to spread that cost over. The only solution that I could come up with was to go vertical and double the area of leasable square footage without necessarily doubling the cost of the project. There's still one slab, one roof, one set of utilities that has to come to the building, but I've got twice the area that I can lease out. This project already required top-of-the-market rents to make it work financially. Getting a second-floor tenant to do the same thing and pay the same rents was a tall order. It also increased the price of the project significantly. This will be a $3 million plus project by the time it's done. Fortunately, I was able to find an operator for the second floor and a new partner for the building to come in to help me do this. And so between the three of us that are here tonight, we represent the ownership and the full tenancy of the building for both floors. These will bring two kind of entertainment, sales tax generating concepts to downtown Edmond. And as Lena mentioned, it will activate that parking lot area during the off times of farmers market, during the evenings, et cetera, et cetera. The only other thing that I will say, and then I'm happy to answer any questions, is that on the slide up there, it said 6,000 square feet. The project will be about 8,000 square feet. It'll be two 4,000-foot plates. The original project was 4,000 feet. This one just stacks another box on top of it. One of the things that we did do in the original version, we had something like a 20-foot clear height in that tap room, which is just huge. It's a very, a lot of volume in that building. In order to help keep costs down and to keep the overall size of the building down, we reduced the Prairie tap room down to 14 feet clear height with 12 going on the second floor. So it'll still be a very nice, beautiful building with plenty of room and volume, but it'll be commensurate with everything else that's around there in downtown. It'll be a couple of feet taller than the Railyard across the street and pretty significantly shorter than the outdoor portion of the Railyard, the overhang portion.
Aesthetically, you want to tell about the brick?
Yes, that was the other thing that was important in this original project that we really, really tried to maintain and have maintained in this two-story project, is that this will still be built with structural masonry, which is what we initially wanted to do. It's how all of the historic buildings that people are now rehabbing, it's how they were built. It's why they're still standing. This is a long-term ground lease, but this building will be around 150, 200, 250 years, just like the old historic buildings that we have downtown right now that have been rehabbed and reused. So this will be along the same lines of those buildings as well.
Council, any questions for?
Are you able to say the second floor tenant, what type of business that is going to be?
I hate to say it publicly.
This is a public hearing.
I know.
It is.
I know, and I know everyone wants to know, and I do have the tenant. As long as no one holds my feet to the fire too hard on this, it's going to be an entertainment venue. It's going to be golf simulators, and we're still working on what the programming of that is. A good friend of mine has a concept in Bricktown that's done extremely well. It's a lot of fun. I go there quite a bit on date nights with friends. It's a fun use, and so we've got the operator for that.
I think it's helpful to know the type of thing you have in
Sure.
mind.
Yeah.
Based on some concerns that people expressed.
Okay.
That sounds like a wholesome thing.
Yes. Yeah, it'll be along the lines of the other projects that I do. I mean, every project that I do, I do it because I want to go to it. I've got 4 kids. I have to take my kids a lot of places. And so the places that I go and that I build and the projects that I do, I want them to be family friendly, and I want them to be places that I want to go hang out and am comfortable taking my kids.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So my area of concerns with this is that one of the things that's unique about this is that we own the land. City of Edmond owns the land. And just for the record, if people don't know, I did vote yes for the initial one because it was a smaller footprint, 3,000, 4,000 square feet and all that. Now, what's in front of us today, and we had an idea of what it was going to look like in scale and structure and what was going to go in there. But what I see in my documents here is that on or before September 1st, 2024, Lab 7 will give us drawings, site plans, floor plans, elevations, and other documents illustrating fixings and describing the scale, size, and the character of the improvements necessary to submit a building permit. Well, that's several months from now, and when the first application came in, we had all that stuff, basically. We knew it was going to be there, and plus it was a smaller footprint. If you remember, I will repeat it again, that when I did cast my yes vote, it was because there was guarantees that there was going to be no impact to the farmer's market. And just to remind everybody, our farmer's market was crowned basically the best in the state this month, and I'm not comfortable right now thinking that this is not going to affect that, because one, when I look at our goals here, we want family-friendly things to bring downtown. Some of the other events we brought downtown, farmers market has started that expansion. So I do have that concern. I have the concern even with the 25 years now of that, because we own that piece of property. And I remember where I was at an event this winter down there, and they said, hey, we have like over 3,000 people down there. It's family friendly. And the businesses stayed open and all that. And so there's other ways to me that can activate that. If someone feels that area needs to be activated more, that is for that. I do like the parts in the contract that there is no extension. If you can't do it this time, but I'm not there. Right now. Then so those are my main things, is that I can't see in my mind how this is not going to affect the activities, not only what the farmers market is doing right now, but any other potential activities that are coming on from this, our horse carriages and all the other things that we were bringing downtown from the family friendly. And so right now I'm not in support of the amendment.
Okay.
I think that I would recommend, I would love for the city to pull back and say, hey, let's regroup. Let's look internally what we have going on down there. And then I know that we're trying to increase density, but we have the Railyard across the street that's been ebbing and flowing. We're going to have the new residential coming in. But to me right now, after the initial application didn't get done, I pulled back my support of this project. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I share a lot of your thoughts. I was asked right after the first of the year if I was in favor of amending the contract, and I said, no, I'm not. I read in the staff memo, the city sent a notice of default to Lab 7 LLC in January 24 and have since been working together to amend the lease. I haven't had a conversation with anyone about the new lease, other than the questions I've posed via email to the staff. So I'm not quite sure that's accurate. I haven't been working together to amend the lease. I have not. I haven't been asked my opinion about it, other than the initial time right after the default. So, Mr. Lodge, I called you Saturday to tell you I was going to vote no, and I explained why. And I do have a question, though. Do you have any idea of the anticipated revenue from this project, annual revenue?
Total sales from it?
Yeah.
It would be an educated guess.
Sure.
I would think that each concept would do $1 million or more in sales.
And I think that's what the farmer's market does in 25 weeks, 26 weeks, somewhere along in there. That's
It
been
was
on my-
about, yeah, they were telling us the other day at the farmer's market meeting that they did about $1 million in revenue. So it takes that parking lot from $1 million revenue generating deal to a $3 million revenue
If
generating
you want to
deal.
look at it that way. I don't, but you can. I just want you to know, I appreciate your efforts on what you're trying to do. I don't appreciate the two-story, and you've known that early on. It's not questioning your abilities or your vision for downtown Edmond or your projects. It's just something that I don't believe we should have amended the contract. I thought we should have started over and tried this process anew. I don't know how tonight's going to turn out, but I wish you luck if it passes. And if it doesn't, perhaps you can reapply and we'll go from there.
Thank you.
Are we, go ahead, Mr.
Well, I was
Robbins.
just going to say, I have tremendous respect for, my fellow members of city council. I think one of the great things about it is we all have different lens that we view things and different life experiences and different boards that we've served on, different points where we're at with different family and stuff. I look at downtown when I first got here, and it wasn't even a passing thought to go there past 5 o'clock. Now I have relatives who come in, even a older brother who's hard to impress sometimes, if you know how that works, and you say, hey, we're going to go downtown. And there's such amazing things that are happening there consistently, and there's an energy that's there. And I think about, I know there's at least one golf similar concept downtown, and I've gone there specifically with my friends and family and peers and stuff. When I was first elected, all of us, we do this for love of, our city. Sometimes we get proposed stuff in like moral equivalence, like this is righteous or this is unrighteous, this is terrible or whatever. I actually think this is the sort of friction that's created when we're growing as a city and the conversations we want to have. And I actually think that it's not a flaw in the system that we're having this conversation today, but a feature of what it is that we want to do. And I see it as an opportunity for our city to enhance this better. And I was looking at the agenda. I remember when I was first elected, I'm Ward 1, and I'm new to everything. And there was a project with the city center complex and the municipal court that had already been approved by my former city councilors with, all the information that they had, and they said yes. And I immediately got a call from 2 or 3 very well-known, established senior folks that had served in very good leadership positions over many decades, farther than I got to, and said, herd on herd's going to go away, and you better do something about that. And it's all because of that downtown deal. And I had to work and I was scared to death because we love herd on herd, and we go there, and there's vendors that supply. So one of the differences that we have now is Miss Lena Dozier. I'm lucky that I'm the first, I think. I think there'll be others maybe in other wards, but we have a specific person who's downtown that is, boots on the ground, eyes on, that's working specifically with all of our folks that are there. And after getting the feedback, particularly on herd, myself and others, we looked those leaders in the eye and made them a promise and said, we'll do everything that we can not to close this street, and we'll move forward. And we've been good to our word on that. So I think when people say, hey, I have a concern here, the reason why they feel that anxiety, because it's a concern, and I don't discount that. And another reason why someone says, well, this is a great project, and I say, well, yeah. To me, it isn't black and white. It isn't wrong or right. It's what we're doing and creating. And I like what we're seeing and creating, and I think we can definitely create something in Ward 1 downtown that both enhances over time our farmers market, but then also creates other opportunities and flows effectively. So definitely want to hear from all the others that are here, but I have a different perspective after getting the feedback that I got.
Yeah, I agree. And as an Edmond resident, I love the farmers market. I don't want this project to negatively impact it in any way, shape, or form. I think that this project won't negatively impact it. I think it'll positively impact it. I think that a lot of the residences that are coming in, the apartments that are about to open up, the Lark that's going in, the other townhomes that Matthew Myers is doing along Hurd Street, The reason that those are coming online is because, as Councilman Robbins said, there are things to do in the evening and during the day. There are restaurants and there are places to go and concepts that people want to visit. And consequently, they want to live near them too. They want to live in these walkable neighborhood communities. And the way that you give them that is that you give them in very close proximity residential uses and commercial uses. The more residences that live in downtown Edmond, the better off the farmer's market's going to be. Those people are all within walking distance. Parking is not a concern because they live a block and a half away. The more people we can get living in downtown Edmond, the better it is for the farmer's market, the better it is for the businesses that operate down here, and the momentum will perpetuate itself, and it will keep going and growing. And as long as we have these conversations like we're having, I think we can grow it in a way that benefits everybody. I live here. My kids go to school here. I spend my money here. The last thing I want to do is make enemies of anybody around me. I don't want to disrupt the farmer's market. I don't want it to go away. I don't want to be an enemy of the farmer's market. I am here. Everything that I'm trying to do, at least from my perspective, is a benefit to downtown Edmond. Otherwise, I wouldn't be taking the time and putting the effort into doing it. Yeah, that's it.
When we visited this time a little over a year ago about this concept coming down there, as you recall, one of my main concerns was the farmer's market and how do we not interfere with their business? How does because construction sites can go crazy. And we were assured, as we are now, that construction won't stop until it's over with. And then hopefully it'll be interior by the time it starts, correct?
Correct. We will get inside as quick as possible, hopefully by the time next year's farmer's market starts. And then there's nothing going on
And of course,
outside the
another
building.
thing that was a big concern when we originally approved this, and I received some emails, it was about the storage. And there will be another storage shed made available. Another thing just personally for me was aesthetically. I was really drawn to your masonry of the original building, and I think it goes beautiful with the downtown aesthetics. And it's not any bigger footprint.
Correct.
It's just going up.
Correct.
And you're going to take some out of the ceiling height in it, so it's not going to go exponentially up.
Correct.
And, some people talked about a morality issue in drinking, and they don't drink. Well, I don't drink, but I still go down there and enjoy myself. My husband likes to have a beer. We don't drive drunk. But having the family aspect of the thing upstairs, golf simulator, and I'm not going to hold you to that, whatever it is. It's fun. It's fun for kids to do things, and we like to take our grands down there and have fun. I'm excited about that. I wish you could have brought a picture of what it would look like.
The
new
two-story
rendering.
version, Lena and I discussed that.
And you're waiting?
I'm waiting because we have not designed the second floor.
Well,
And-
you know that we're going to hold you to the aesthetic.
Yes,
of the
yeah,
original
yes.
drawing.
It'll be the same type of project. I mean, it'll be another box stacked on top of that one. Same type of structural masonry.
Those were the
aesthetic.
three main things that I was emailed about. And I know we keep talking about the farmer's market, but we love it. We love our vendors. We love the people that run it. It's important to us, and it's important to the city, and it's an amazing farmer's market, as Mayor talked about, received an amazing award this year. I'm not shocked, because it's that great of a place, and it just keeps growing. And to help those vendors support them for either occasional income, part-time income, or Councilman Robbins was telling me some, it's even their full-time income. And I'm a huge small business supporter, and especially a local business supporter. So
Yes.
that's important to me. I believe you've answered the questions that were sent to me adequately, and I'm super happy that Lena got them together and that they visited with them. I'm glad that you sat down with them. That's important to me, and had it not happened, I probably would have asked you to do it anyway. That's just something I like. I think it's important to have good neighbors when you're developing, and keep up those neighbors while you're developing. Have a clean construction site. It's going to have to be, because it's right in the smack middle of our downtown Edmond area. And anyway, that's all I have to say.
And as a
Thank
follow-up
you.
to that, something that I would ask for, I don't know if you've committed to it, but if, like Council Moore says, if this goes forward, would you commit to, during the construction phase, a monthly meeting with those stakeholders, whether they be business or the farm market vendors, to meet with you and the construction foreman on site to be able to address any challenges, opportunities, or things that are going well that you want to continue, or,
Yeah.
things come up? Is that something that you would commit to?
Yeah, we discussed that Saturday morning when we were walking around the site, and someone had brought that up, and I said that would be fine. I'm more than happy to meet with whoever is interested in what's going on there and show them what's going on. The meetings that we had with the vendors at the farmers market were good. I had been in discussions with Emily and some of the farmers market folks, but I hadn't spoken with the vendors. It was a good opportunity to speak with them. It gave me the opportunity to kind of relay on to them, who I am and why I'm doing this project. I got to tell them a little bit about Prairie and Prairie's willingness to open their tap room for farmers market vendors on Saturday mornings before their normal hours of operation, and to collaborate in any way, whatsoever that will benefit the farmers market. They have a massive social media following. Just blasting out an Instagram message saying, hey, come see us at the farmers market this morning, will reach, I don't know how many tens of thousands of people. And so it gave me the opportunity to talk with them about that we want to see this as a collaboration, not any type of rivalry or anything where there's any type of friction going on.
I think a lot has been said, and I agree with a lot of the statements that have been said. My concern in looking at the amendment and had an opportunity to speak with Mr. Lodge a couple months ago, I think, but that we have the timelines that are strict, and that the rent will start if, depending on how the vote goes tonight, if we approve this agreement, then rent payments will begin, right? At that time. There's not going to be extensions, and, working around when the farmer's market is open on construction to be the least disruption. But I feel like it's just going to bring more people probably walking to that area, going to the farmer's market. As Stacy said, or as Councilwoman Peterson said, the actual footprint is the same. So it's not taking up any more area in that on the ground, but it is going up, not doubling in height. We certainly have other buildings in the area that are already approved and going up that are much higher than this one. I think it's going to be incredibly beautiful and enhance the downtown area. I think we get more people coming there, the more people go to the downtown businesses. I know sometimes they get concerned about parking, but I really think in the way this is going, people are walking more. And with the 50 spaces in the one parking garage, we've got more spaces in the other. We've got more overall parking spaces, more people, but more people walking. I feel like it's going to be a really good thing for all the stakeholders, the farmers market, vendors, the downtown businesses, sales tax revenues so we can fix our roads that everyone wants fixed. And so, yeah, the rent payment starts if we approve this today, no extensions. We work around the farmer's market opening time for construction, and so those were my concerns. I thought it was a good project when I passed it before. I still feel like it's a good project even with the change in height, and honestly, I kind of like having something else in the structure that doesn't involve alcohol and is a family-friendly kind of thing. So I support it still.
Before, this is the public portion, and we'll have the public come up. And something just hit me while I was sitting here is that, we keep talking about the farmer's market itself, the market itself, the that happens on Saturday and all that. But also in my mind, there's something else that's lost. It's the whatever other capabilities that are there in that building, that in that space when the farmer's market's not there. Farmer's market's there Saturday, but we have other activities that happen throughout, or potential activities. That has the potential to be lost, so that's one point. But then also, I've heard the comments about the aesthetics of the building, and I didn't see in the contract, where do we get to approve the aesthetics of the building? Is that right there? Is that we are going to do? Okay, well, what I see here is this, and then I'll stop for now, is that the hands-on that we would normally have for a contract, we're not going to have that on this. This is basically, we're going to tell the applicant here that you can go do basically what you want to do, and then at the end of the day, we're going to take it. And by the way, the contract reads to me, and so that just increases my concern, especially since this is our land. This is the city's own land. This is not, this is, you, Lab 7 didn't go out and buy this land. This is our land, so. Enough of my soapbox. So, thank you, sir. Unless you have anything else, I want to open it up for public comment right now.
No, the only other thing I will say is that it is the city's land. It will also become the city's property, right? And after the end of the lease extension. So that is a $3+ million asset that the city will own. By then, it'll be who knows what. Point being, though, it's an empty piece of land right now, and it's going to be incredibly valuable to the city in the future, just from not just from a sales tax revenue generating perspective, but from an asset perspective when the city takes ownership of it.
So just a point of reference, the next, I'm not being facetious here, the next eclipse is in 24 years.
Oh, are you going to be gone?
This lease is over in 24 years, because it's including the first year, right? That we've already, okay, thank you, sir. This is the public comment portion. Please come down, introduce yourself when I recognize you, and then we'll get through this as efficiently as possible. Yes, ma'am, please come down and introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name's Lydia Lee. I am a resident here of Edmond. I'm a taxpayer, and I'm also sort of an activist. I thought it was interesting to listen to Mayor Davis and Councilman Moore, and I appreciated their positions on this. I'm a little concerned about the rest of you, but hopefully what I have to say here might just change your mind, and hopefully you will listen carefully to what I have to say. Last summer, I began wondering about this city partnership going on at Festival Marketplace, and I talked to some friends and some downtown business owners, and they all, without exception, expressed concern about this partnership. I got to wondering how this city lease happened, and so I went back and watched some of the city council meetings. I also made an open records request to the city of Edmond last summer and again last month. I spent hours going through those documents, and my concerns continued to grow. The background on this slide, ladies and gentlemen, tends to act like this just started in January of 2023. The emails that I obtained under the open records request showed that in May of 2022, Brandon Lodge was referred to the city by Janet Yell with a specific statement that he was interested in doing something at the Festival Marketplace. The documents also show that city officials met with him had lunch with him, visited the property, and discussed what he wanted to do there. On May 20th, 2022, Andy Conyers confirmed in an email that he, Janet Yao, Scott Rigby, and Randy Inns all met with Lodge to discuss this project. And it noted that maybe they ought to do some sort of a process to make this official. So staff began drafting an RFQ at that time. In August of 2022, Conyers sought the help of Janet Yao again to pretty up that RFQ and asked her to add all the neato mosquito stuff happening downtown. In the meantime, the city is continuing to look at the LAP 7 proposal, and on September 8, 2022, a memo was drafted by a city official or a city staff member to send the concept review of the brewery to the Urban Board for review. The memo noted that LAP 7 was currently in negotiations with the city on the terms of a ground lease. 2022 in September. 4 days later, the item appears on a city council agenda for approval of an RFQ. Now, during that meeting, and I watched the meeting again, there was only one vague reference to a comment that, one person had contacted us, but it didn't have any effect of it. The extent of the meetings and the discussions with LAP 7 were never disclosed to the council or to any member of the public. The RFQ was issued on November 1st, 2022. On that day, Randy Inns emailed Mr. Lodge and asked him to make sure he saw that RFQ. Now, my knowledge is city staff didn't reach out to any other potential bidder, but he did to Lodge. Lodge also emailed city staff a couple of times during the RFQ process until at some point he was told, hey, wait a minute, we better go through the official government route and send your questions to the person named in the RFQ. Before the closing date of the RFQ, I'm told that a city staff member reached out to Bob Weiss and asked him to submit a proposal because apparently they hadn't received any other interest from anyone else. Mr. Weiss joined with Sean O'Grady to form what was called the Spearman Group to submit a proposal. However, they were without the knowledge and the background of those discussions that LAP 7 had been having for over 6 months with the city of Edmond. Due to time constraints, they submitted a letter saying, hey, it was an abbreviated response, but they offered to do a number of things that would complement the surrounding businesses in downtown. Now, a committee was formed to evaluate the bids. The committee was made up of Conyers, Yowell, Stephanie Carroll, and Jared Prince. Keep in mind that Yowell is the one that brought Lodge to the city in the first place, and Conyers is the one that went out and met with him several times prior to issuing the RFQ. The bids closed on December 15th, 2022, with only 2 proposals, and you guys are aware of that, Lodge and the Spearman Group. Prior to the interviews that the committee was going to do with those 2 bidders, on December 29th, Conyers wrote an email to Randy Inns and Ken Bryan. Dudes, keep this between us for now, but assuming it's the Brandon Lodge thing. On January 11th, 2023, Jared Prince, another member of the committee, sends an email to city staff stating that we'll likely greenlight the brewery. Now, keep in mind, this is before the interviews took place. That's 3 out of 4 of the committee members clearly showing a bias towards the Lodge Brewery concept before the Spearman Group had even been interviewed. On January 24th, 2023, Conyers emailed the council indicating that the committee recommended the Lodge proposal because the Spearman Group provided very limited information. He indicated that they were impressed with the presentation by Lodge and that they would move forward with negotiations. He failed to indicate that Lodge had over 7 months at that point to form his proposal, as well as significant discussion and input from city staff. In watching the city council meetings in both 2022 and 2023, there was never full disclosure to the council of these prior meetings or prior consideration of the LAP 7 proposal. Ladies and gentlemen, these emails speak for themselves. Now, as you also know from the emails you've probably received on this, as well as a recent non-doc article, many citizens in this community have expressed the opinion that this process, the RFQ and the lease agreement, were unfairly handled and that there were preferences that favored LAP 7 from the get-go. The documents that I received clearly indicated that these concerns appear to be valid. As a result, I urge you to listen to the citizens and terminate this lease. If you are uncertain, I want to add a little bit more information to support why this lease should be terminated immediately. I question how you can amend a lease that is in default. And it is undisputed that this lease is currently in default. The terms of the lease provided that construction must start on or before January 1, 2024. The city manager had the option to extend it. He didn't. But the only way to do that was as a result of a force majeure, which is essentially items beyond the control of the individual. The lease specifically states that delays or failures resulting from a lack of funds will not be permitted as a reason to offer an extension. The city provided notice to LAP 7 that it was in default in January, and there was no extensions. The lease goes on to set out the terms for default. Clearly, this is in default, and the lease also says the city only has 2 options in the event of a default. 1 is termination, 2 is the city can take over construction and complete it. Amending the lease is not one of the options provided in that lease. Now, 2 other issues will deserve some merit here. First is there's no indication how the rent amount was determined. I've watched all the videos of the city council meetings. I've gone through these emails. There is no discussion on how this $12,750 was determined. I don't know if you guys were provided any information, but it's certainly not public information that I've been able to determine. The new proposed lease amount is also the same as the old lease amount. And what kind of concerns me is there's a office or a building right over here on Broadway that is for rent right now. by Price Edwards. It's 1,800 square feet, and it rents for $36,000 a year, not 12. And this lease is not a 25-year lease, it's a 50-year lease. It's 25 with 5 additional terms for a total of a 50-year lease. There's a 10% increase each year after 5 years, but even 10% on this amount is not important enough to warrant this. And especially since there's no discussion or disclosure how this amount even came to pass. Ladies and gentlemen, the citizens of this community deserve transparency. We have a process that is deeply flawed. We have a process that, quite frankly, smacks of preferential treatment and unfair bidding. City staff should avoid even the appearance of impropriety. And of all the emails, meetings, assumptions, and less than impartial review committee, leads me to one conclusion. This was not a fair bidding process. The lack of sunshine that has been shed on these determinations should give all of us pause. And Mayor, that was my eclipse reference for the day. But in all seriousness, given the terms of this agreement, it should be terminated immediately. And if you want to pursue a new 2-story larger project, issue a new RFQ. Make it fair, make it transparent, and do this right. I urge all of you to terminate this lease and not go forward with this process. Thank you.
Please, we don't, no. Is there anyone else in the audience?
Can I ask a question, Mayor, or are we not doing that?
What's your question, sir?
I was going to ask a question to Ms. Lee if I could, but if not, I won't. It's I don't know if that's how we do it, actually.
Well,
I'm happy to answer it, but.
go ahead and ask your question. I mean, she's not on trial.
Oh, I know she's not on trial. I just, obviously, what you've shared here today, you want to have an effect. I just want to note that, I'm the Ward 1 city councilor. I own one piece of property that the bank lets me stay in as long as I keep paying them a mortgage. I don't own any businesses. As a matter of practice, if somebody calls me, emails me, reaches out to me, I respond within 24 hours tops. And in fact, if I don't, I start getting like a little bit of anxiety. I was coming home the plane, which I came home from a conference today, and I hopefully will fly back tonight or tomorrow morning. I found one that I hadn't responded to, and I did. I might not have all the answers, but I always try to get back to folks. You have my cell phone number. I have yours. You have your email. I just did a search here. I've asked you questions about, can I get feedback on this? Do you want to participate in that? Here's a news thing. This is the first time I'm hearing this from you.
I understand that.
So when I weigh out, we have vendors who have invested and done things, and they have their businesses. Also, I believe that Mr. Lodge has, is a member of this community who's invested different things. I'm utterly just confused as to why you would detonate this on me right now with all of this in a big speech, when I think everybody in this room has my cell phone. So as a matter of practice, what I would say, thank you for the information, but the way I like to be communicated with is just like everyone else has. But you're right, you can speak in a public forum, but you put us in an interesting spot where you know how to get a hold of me, but you decided to make it. I don't have a question, I'm just perplexed at how you're communicating with me. But go ahead.
Okay,
Well, I thought it was appropriate to convey this information to the full council. And I only found out that this item was on the agenda last Thursday or Friday. Now, true, I've had the documents for a while that I was mulling over, but I wasn't even sure I was going to do anything with them. until I saw that this lease was being amended and decided to come and convey my concerns to the entire council, because I think the entire council deserved to hear it. Thank you.
Ma'am in the back, please come down and introduce yourself.
I'm Mary Lou Gresham, live here in Edmond. I have a different perspective than any of you, and it's probably the least valuable. I'm the artist who did Kentucky Daisy. She's very special to me. And building a two-story building next to her is going to diminish her a great deal. And she is our statehood celebration of 100 years of statehood. And it's sort of like cutting her off at the ankles, you know. She's going to get real short as the building gets real tall beside her. So I'm not comfortable with that. I also appreciated what has been mentioned, that it has been in default, this agreement, and it seems to me like the honorable thing to do then, it is in default, start over. Now, I preferably would like to see something more family-oriented there than a brewery at what should be a state site. And so that's really pretty much all I have to say about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Please come down, sir, and introduce yourself. Yes, sir.
My name is Bob Weiss, owner of Othello's downtown and the Spearman Group that was referred to in this very passionate speech that we just heard. Since my name was mentioned, I thought I'd better say a few words. Have you ever been in a situation where everybody's right? We're here tonight. I mean, every comment that the council made, you're all spot on. This is exactly right. The comments that she made about the process was spot on. Everything that Mr. Lodge said is 100% accurate. You guys have a tough decision to make tonight because we have a situation where everybody's right. And so you got to figure out how you want to move forward. But I want to say something about Brandon Lodge. I don't know the man. I met him for the first time tonight, I saw him speak, so I know who he is. But I know what he's done for downtown Edmond. I know that he puts his time, his money, his sweat, his ideas to work. And while I'm not a big fan of another brewery, because I'm a big fan of spreading out different types of businesses, but the fact is, we have 5 pizza places downtown Edmond, where all seem to be making it, so maybe there is room for another brewery. But I don't want your decision to be based on all the different emotions that's coming out today. You have a tough decision, and my response to the RFP, I had 2 days to put that together. 2 days. But it came to me, and the reason why I did it is because we didn't want to have only one RFP or one response to something as important as this. It was a great idea that Mr. Lodge brought to the city. This is, hey, you have a piece of land that's it's called a non-producing asset. You have something that you own that's not making any money. Let's put it to work. He came up with this idea. He developed it. He should be getting gold stars. He shouldn't be raked over the coals for trying to do it. Nothing was done behind the scenes. Nothing was done to get something done before anybody else. It was the process that happened. Our process was flawed. You heard it, and it was 100% correct. So however you want to handle it is right. But this man has a good idea, and he's willing to invest his money and his time into this city, into downtown Edmond, and I am invested in downtown Edmond. So think about everything you've heard tonight, because it's all over the board, and you 5 people have a very important decision to make. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else in the audience? Yes, sir. Please come down and introduce yourself.
Mr. Mayor, council members, my name is Bryce Thompson. I do a lot of different things, but I think the most appropriate way to introduce myself tonight is I'm the owner of the Patriarch. And driving down here, I started thinking, and it hit me. Almost exactly 10 years ago, I stood right here pitching the city council on the Patriarch. Mr. Mayor, you were there. And similar to tonight, there was a lot of concern. And there was a lot of people for it, there were a lot of people against it. And we spoke for quite a while. And Mr. Mayor, if my memory serves me correct, I believe it was you. It was right after the city had invested a ton of money to do a third-party consultant to come in and analyze downtown, and what do we need, and all these things. And your comment to some of the negative or reason, no, maybe not negative, I don't think it was probably more of reasons why we shouldn't instead of reasons why we should. And you stopped and you said, we have somebody standing here doing exactly what that report told us our number one need was, and instead of trying to help them get it done, we're trying to find ways to shut it down. And Patriarch won that night, 4-1. My one no vote, several years later, apologized to me. She came up to me at an event, and she said she got it wrong. She did not understand it, but she's so grateful that Patriarch is here today. That place is very special to me. It's hard to explain, but there is a piece of my soul in that business. And although I do disagree with what people have said to me over the last few years, because I do not believe this, but I have had a lot of people over the last 3 or 4 years tell me that Patriarch is the reason, was the thing that pushed Edmond to get it started to where it is today, to having multiple breweries, really cool restaurants. They would not have come 10 years ago. And the reason Patriarch came is because it was Stephen and I, 2 guys that live in Edmond. We love Edmond. Our kids go to school in Edmond. This is home. And we want to do something for our community. So as the owner of Patriarch, I am adamantly for this. I think this is, buildings aren't built like this anymore. And this idea, I get that it's easy for all of us to stand here at a pulpit and talk about small business and talk about taxes and talk about all these other things. But as somebody standing here that owns a construction company along with several other businesses, business is hard, especially right now, and especially in the food and bev industry. Like there's not people looking to open new places. They're actively more places are shutting down than opening. And so I feel like as a city, we have an opportunity to build an amazing building with the type of tenants we need to meet the long-term vision downtown Edmond. And instead of finding reasons why we shouldn't and the issues that, I'm not up to verse on all the issues of how we got here, but sounds like there were some, I get that. But I just think this is a no-brainer. And then I will close by this, to echo the gentleman that spoke before me. I have also known Brandon Lodge personally for several years. And like me, Brandon loves Edmond. His kids go to school here. He lives here. He and I, matter of fact, and our buddy Drew, years ago, started a group to get together once a month to talk about how guys of our generation what can we do to help Edmond, specifically downtown. Like, we've been talking about ideas and things for years, because not for our own benefit or make money, because believe me, these deals ain't making money. So it's like, it's more about a passion to see what we can do for our city. And so I would just add lastly that I stand 100% with Brandon on his character, on his intent, and what he's trying to do for the city of Edmond, and we need more people like him. And I think this project is a way to attract people like him. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else? Yes, sir. Please come down and introduce yourself.
Good Good evening, council. My name is Charles Moles. I live here in
You
Edmond.
can lift the microphone.
Sorry. I've heard a lot of discussion tonight, and I just wanted to make two brief comments. One is it's never too early to do the right thing, and it's never too late to make a mistake. I don't think we have a question about Brandon, how good a person he is or anything, or how good the project is. I think our question is how we got here, and it appears to me how we got here is a very flawed process. We've got a lease that's in default. The right thing to do is to go back and do this process correctly. You can still end up with this beautiful building, you can still end up with this wonderful business, but the message we want to send everybody in the country is Edmond is honest, upfront, and we do business correctly. And on that grounds, I think we need to take a step back, throw this lease out, start over, and do it correctly, and we'll all benefit from it in the end. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else in the audience? Please come down and introduce yourself, sir.
My name is Drew Dargan. I'm an Edmond resident. Kids live here. Also work in real estate development and investing, and my business partner and I have significant land holdings all around downtown Edmond. We're very invested in the community and continuing this incredible path that specifically downtown Edmond has been on since the patriarch showed up. So something I'd like to say that I just don't think everyone out here understands is, and Bryce mentioned it briefly, but it is incredibly difficult to get these projects down the line. It takes years and years and years, and money's expensive, and labor and materials are expensive, and it's rare. It's something that we see a lot in downtown Edmond and in Edmond as a whole, but it's rare to have residents of the community whose kids go to school here. My wife's the principal at Redbud Elementary. We're all fully invested in this process, and then we're spending our own time and money and sweat to try to bring something great to the city. And again, to echo what Bryce said, these aren't millions of dollars worth of deals here for guys like Brandon and Bryce and myself. Brandon spent a long time working on this, and for all the comments that Ms. Lee put out here, I think that another thing that's important to understand is in order to bring special projects to this community, people like Brandon and myself and Bryce, we spend a lot of time in communication with city staff, with Janet at EEDA, with all kinds of different stakeholders, because that's the process you've got to go down to start to get some things happening and momentum happening. Brandon didn't do anything wrong. Brandon did everything right here, aggressively pursuing a project that he believes will improve the community in downtown. So, if there's things that could go better on the city's end with process, that's something that you guys ought to think about addressing. But, you've got an opportunity here to have a very, very special project. And I can speak for my friends and family in Edmond. Everyone is thrilled at the prospects of Prairie coming through. I think that the farmers market will be much better off, as well as all of these projects that have been coming out of the ground and over the next few years will continue to come out of the ground. Tabling this and delaying it, time creates all kinds of issues and challenges, and I think it would be a real missed opportunity if something went the wrong way and Brandon wasn't able to stay on track with this project, and Prairie wasn't willing to make the commitment to downtown Edmond, which I think is a big get, and that's not even talking about the second level. So I strongly encourage you guys to approve this. I believe 100% in Brandon. He's a close friend of mine. He's a great guy, and he's doing everything he can to make a great impact, and he's already done it at the Ice House, just a stone's throw from here. So I urge you guys to approve the amendment.
Thank you, sir. Is anyone else in the audience?
Can I say one more thing?
Yes, sir.
Just real quick about the process and the Ice House project. Just as a matter of education, before the Ice House project started, my first call was to Janet Yao and Randy Ince. And the reason was that I was interested in that property. Another developer had come along, purchased that property, and tried to do a development there. That development did not happen. It failed. It failed because of parking. Too much parking was required. All of the additional buildings had to be torn down, and the cost was just too high to turn all of that property into a single restaurant, which is what was going to happen in the Ice House building. My first call when I was interested in that property and the opportunity that I saw was the fact that there was a massive piece of grass just south of where the Ice House project sits now. It was excess right-of-way of Highway 66 and Edmond Road. I thought that presents a wonderful opportunity. What if the city of Edmond will work with me to build a parking lot right there? Then I can redevelop all of those buildings and turn them into tax-paying, generating deals for the city of Edmond. And that's exactly what I did. I had no idea what that process was to do that. I just called the people that I knew who could tell me how to do it. So I called Janet and I called Randy, and they started the process. That was a year-long process to get that incentive approved through the city of Edmond. And there is not one doubt in my mind that that project is absolutely impossible if the city of Edmond does not partner with me on the parking lot. It's impossible, okay? So, should I have kept that idea to myself, or should I have and waited for someone to come up with it, or should I have gone to the city of Edmond, brought my idea, and let them implement their process, and then I go through it? I went through that process, and now the Ice House project is over there. It's fully leased. It's generating a lot of money. There's a brewery over there that's an anchor tenant. Go over there on a Friday night, especially on decent weather, and see how many kids are there. It's the most family-friendly place on earth, next to Disneyland. But I'm just telling you, a lot of the comments are made out of ignorance, and a lot of them impugn my integrity, and I don't appreciate it. And none of it's true. Everything that I did was above board. I did not have 6 months to sit here and figure out this project. The project was figured out when I brought the idea to the city. I sat around for 6 months and waited for the process to unfold, to do what I needed to do. I didn't start spending a bunch of money until I knew that I had won the RFQ. Then I started spending the money with the architects to do design, and that's when we found out that by that time interest rates had gone through the roof, construction prices had gone through the roof, single-story project doesn't work. So I could have packed up my bags and gone home, or I could beat my head against a wall and try to figure out how to make a two-story project work and bring two high-caliber tenants paying ridiculously high rates to be in downtown Edmond at a time when businesses are closing all over the place, like Bryce said. So I wanted to just bring that up at the end because a whole lot has been talked about this process. There's been articles written on it. It's made me look bad. I don't like that. Everything I did was by the book, above board. I went through the process exactly how I was told to go through it. And now I'm here trying to make this project work. If we don't want the project, let's not do the project. But I think this is good. This is good for the city. It's good for the farmers market. It's good for attracting businesses and residents to downtown Edmond. And I'm ready to do it. So let's do it or let's not. But let's figure it out and get going.
Yes, Janet.
Janet Yowell, Edmond Economic Development Authority. I want to address a couple of things. First of all, in my job, it's typical for people to bring me ideas, economic development ideas. It's my job for me to vet those ideas, talk to city staff, go through a process to see if it's something that needs to be taken forward or not. Project delays. I can look around town and name probably on two hands the delays in projects that we have had all over town, including the Ice House, including the Railyard, including Integris and Mercy on I-35. I just think that the amount of investment that Brandon has made in the Ice House, again, he's talked about it, a couple of other people have talked about what he took in a field over there and made it into some revenue-generating property, which is another thing that's important in economic development when we look at the opportunities that we have in this community. I think that's very important. When we talk about the process that we went through specifically for this, this project, Andy Conyers and I did put this together, and the reference earlier that I was supposed to pretty it up. I took information from our existing downtown master plan that we had at the time. I took the priorities from that, so we would have something to base anything that we were going to look at off of that. I advertised it. Here locally, we advertised it. I advertised it to the Commercial Real Estate Council of Metro Oklahoma City. I advertised it to the Urban Land Institute of Oklahoma. It was widely spread throughout the metro area. I did get a call from Bob Weiss a few days before. I encouraged him to go ahead and submit and response to this. I know Bob. I knew that he's a good businessman and that he could have good ideas. And no, we never want to go through a process and have just one project to look at, but there was never anything predetermined. We were looking at a process that was open to a whole lot of people. So I just want to reiterate that when we look at this, this is exactly what we do in economic development. People bring me projects. People bring me retail ideas, and it is just the process that we go through to vet these things and to see if we take them forward or not. I think this is a good project. I stand by the process that we went through to get us here, and enough has been said about Brandon. I think he has put his money where his mouth is, and he lives here. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Please introduce yourself, sir.
Hi, I'm Robert Black, Edmond resident and business owner. Thanks for giving me the chance to speak. Thanks, Brandon, for being here. This is a tough topic. You know, Bob said it well. This is, in my opinion, you guys have a lot of correct things to have to try to decipher. I wanted to comment a little bit only because, I made some public comments that were produced in a story about this. And I want to kind of clarify for you all in this room sort of what I've learned having done that, and then kind of come through the other side, if I can. First of all, just so you know, Brandon's a friend of mine. And I like Brandon a great deal. We've known each other and worked together a long time. We're working together currently on a project. So, the perspective I have a lot of different hats here in Edmond. I'm a farmer's market vendor. I'm a business owner. I'm a resident, et cetera. And so I kind of have a lot of different perspectives. I wanted to share just a couple of things with them specifically about the process. And part of that is what I've learned over the last month or two after having given some public comments, and I thought it was relevant after the last few speakers. I've had a chance to visit with Lena. I actively sought out, some counsel about the process. I am still and was ignorant of the RFQ and RFP process. And so I spoke to Brandon, I spoke to other developers in our community, I spoke to some of you all, I spoke to Lena, because I wanted to learn more about it, because from where I sat, it also felt, I'm going to use the word disingenuous, on the way that the city handled it. Nothing that I thought Brandon did felt disingenuous, just to clarify that my comments were directed at how it was handled from the city, and I want to share why I think that. Is that okay? So going back to 2022 and 23, as this idea started formulating and percolating, and Brandon was doing his work with Janet and EEDA, which I appreciate, in my opinion, and I'm in danger of giving opinions here, but I guess I have the public forum to do that. It seems to me that as Edmond has been this place where economic development and activity didn't happen for a long time, there maybe was a certain way that RFPs and RFQs went, or that city business got done, in part because we would take whatever we could get. We needed to grow this city, right? Maybe that's why when this process came out, it felt like to me that this was a done deal before it came to a vote, before it came to an RFQ. And I don't think that has anything to do with what Brandon did. I think he followed the process exactly as it's laid out, as it's intended to. And I think probably in all fairness to the staff was just doing what we've always done. And the council is doing what we've always done. But I can tell you, I will share firsthand experience that when this process came out, as a local restaurateur, someone who's in the food and beverage business, and I want to echo, it is a damn hard business, and small business is hard in general, but it's a really hard one. It was broadly considered that this was a done deal, and so someone like me who actively builds and creates new businesses shouldn't bother submitting to the RFQ. And that did make it feel disingenuous. Why do we have an RFQ process? Why do we have an RFP process if it is predetermined, right? And so I want to share a little bit of context about that. I've shared that with some of you in this room, and I'm sharing it publicly. That was the perception that I felt based on, A, comments from people in the city, but also in some of the meetings that I sat in the Downtown Edmond Business Association meetings as the ideas were produced by Ken and Andy and Randy and the team were introducing the ideas to downtown stakeholders. It felt disingenuous from the beginning. So I want to conclude my comments by saying a couple of things. Number one, Brandon's done a lot of work on a really tough project, and I really like him, and I really like what he's doing for the city. And so I just want to echo, as a friend of Brandon, you know, that for anything that might feel like this is something that's impugned to him in some way, I hate that because he's a great guy. I want to share that. Number two, I want to challenge the city to think about how these processes go forward in the future, regardless of what happens tonight at the vote, and to think about how the RFQ and the RFP process can go better next time, because this one didn't go good. And so that's all my comments.
Thank you very much, sir. Any other comments? Come down and introduce yourself, sir.
My name is Leonard Scott. Tonight, I'm going to speak for the elders. Everybody here is about interested in making money, including all you all. You all want to make money, you want to make money, you make money. What about the elders? Everything you build increases the property taxes. Everything. And you realize that the property taxes, they have to wait a year. So they come back in the next year and they get you. And oh, by the way, the property taxes are so high, they can only go a certain amount. And then they get you again the next year and again the next year. Just kind of like our water bill and like our electricity and our fire and everything else in this town is more expensive. I took my grandchildren to McDonald's. It cost me $40 for 3 hamburgers and french fries and a shake. That's the reality, folks. Your elders are on fixed income, and they're not in with all this property taxes and all this up stuff. You're forcing the elders out of downtown Edmond because we can't afford to live there. Those poor people down there where you built that big parking garage down there, you looked across the street at the people that live there. Folks, you guys start thinking about the whole community, and that includes the elders that you're forcing out of this community.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Well, council, what would you like to do on this item? We've heard a lot of spirited conversation tonight. This is item 9C.
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve from Councilman
Second.
Robbins. We have a second from Councilwoman Mugg. Is there any other discussion? Call for a vote. Item passed 3-2. Thank you very much.